The lights in the lower maintenance bay flickered like they always did at 3 in the morning. Kang Ti-ho wiped the grease from his hands and looked up at the broken coolant pipe above his head. It was the third one this week. The old station was falling apart, piece by piece, and he was one of the few people who cared enough to fix it. Orbital Station Valora floated in the darkness between 3 solar systems. It was a trading hub, a meeting place for dozens of alien species who came to buy, sell, and make deals. Humans were common here, but they were not important. They fixed things. They cleaned things. They carried heavy boxes from one place to another. The galaxy had decided long ago that Earth was a small, unimportant planet, and humans were a small, unimportant species. Ti-ho did not mind this too much. He liked his work. He liked the quiet of the night shift when most of the station was asleep. He liked the feeling of taking something broken and making it work again. It was simple. It was honest. It was enough. He climbed down from his ladder and picked up his toolbox. His shift was almost over. He could go back to his small room, eat some instant noodles, and sleep for a few hours before doing it all again. This was his life, and he had accepted it. But tonight would be different. Tonight, everything would change. The emergency alarm started screaming just as Ti-ho reached the corridor. Red lights flashed on the walls. A voice came through the speakers, speaking in the common galactic language that everyone used. Attention all personnel. A royal vessel is requesting emergency docking. Clear Bay 7 immediately. This is not a drill. Ti-ho pressed himself against the wall as a group of station security officers ran past him. Royal vessel. That was unusual. Very unusual. The station sometimes received important visitors, but actual royalty was rare. He should have gone back to his room. That would have been the smart thing to do. But curiosity pulled at him, and he found himself walking toward Bay 7 instead of away from it. The bay was already crowded when he arrived. Station officials stood in neat lines, wearing their best uniforms. Security officers formed a wall around the docking area, and in the center of it all, a massive ship was settling onto the landing platform. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The ship was covered in scales that looked like real dragon skin, shimmering with colors that seemed to shift and change as Ti-ho watched. Gold and silver and deep red. The symbol on its side showed a dragon wrapped around a burning star. "That is a Dracori ship," someone whispered nearby. "The royal family of House HealHFY." Ti-ho felt his heart beat faster. The Dracori were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They were tall, beautiful, and dangerous. They had scales on their skin and small horns on their heads. Some said they could breathe fire, though Ti-ho had never seen one in person to know if this was true. The ship's door opened with a hiss of steam. Figures in dark robes walked down the ramp, their faces hidden under hoods. They moved with purpose, with urgency. Something was wrong. And then he heard the whispers spreading through the crowd like wildfire. "The princess is dying. Princess Yura has the fatting." "There is no cure for the fatting. She has days to live, maybe hours." "Why did they come here? There is nothing we can do." Ti-ho watched as the robed figures formed a protective circle around something he could not see. They were carrying someone important, someone dying. He turned to leave. This was not his business. He was just a mechanic. He had no place here among royalty and politics and ancient diseases. But the corridor he chose was blocked. Workers were moving equipment, and he had to take a different path. The different path led him directly into trouble. He was walking fast, his head down, his toolbox in his hand. He turned a corner and walked straight into a wall of robed figures. He stumbled, his toolbox flying from his grip, his arms reaching out to catch himself. His bare hand touched something soft, something warm, skin that felt different from human skin, smooth with tiny scales beneath the surface. Time stopped. Ti-ho looked up and saw a face beneath a dark hood. A woman's face, beautiful even in sickness. Her skin was pale gray, almost the color of ash. Dark veins spread across her cheeks like cracks in broken glass. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow and weak. But where his hand touched her wrist, something was happening. The gray scales on her wrist began to shimmer. Color flooded back into them, silver and bright, like stars waking up in a dark sky. The change spread slowly up her arm, pushing back the darkness. Someone screamed. Strong hands grabbed Tiho and threw him to the ground. He hit the metal floor hard, the air rushing out of his lungs. Guards pointed weapons at his face, shouting in languages he did not understand. "What did you do?" a cold voice demanded. Tiho looked up at a tall woman with silver scales covering half her face. She wore a crown of twisted metal and gemstones. Her eyes burned with fury and fear and something else, something that looked like hope. "I did nothing," Tiho said, his voice shaking. "I just touched her. I fell and I touched her, that is all." The woman, who he now understood was the queen, turned back to the dying princess. She pulled back the hood that covered her daughter's face, and she gasped. The dark veins were retreating. The gray color was fading. The princess's skin was returning to its natural silver white, healthy and bright. The princess opened her eyes. They were golden like two small suns, and they were clear. They were alive. "Mother," her voice was weak but strong enough to hear. "What happened? I feel different, I feel." She turned her head and saw Tiho on the ground, surrounded by guards with weapons. Their eyes met, human and Dracori, mechanic and princess. "What did you do to me, human?" she asked. Tiho shook his head. He had no answer. He had done nothing except fall. He had done nothing except touch her by accident. He had done nothing except be human. But somehow, impossibly, that had been enough. The queen stood tall and looked at Tiho like he was a puzzle she needed to solve. Around them, the guards were silent, the officials were frozen, and the whole station seemed to hold its breath. "Take him," the queen commanded. "Do not harm him. Do not let him leave. I need to understand what just happened." Guards pulled Tiho to his feet. His toolbox lay forgotten on the floor. His simple life as a mechanic was over, though he did not know it yet. All he knew was that he had touched a dying princess, and she had started to heal. All he knew was that everyone was looking at him like he had done something impossible. Maybe he had. The cell was cold and small. Tiho sat on the metal bench and stared at the wall. He had been here for 6 hours, maybe 7. It was hard to tell. No one had come to explain anything. No one had come to hurt him. He was simply waiting, alone with his thoughts. He kept looking at his hands. They looked normal, rough from years of work with small scars and calluses from handling tools. There was nothing special about them. There was nothing special about him. But he had touched the princess, and she had started to heal. The door opened with a sharp sound. A young man walked in, tall and proud with scales that glowed like copper in the light. He wore armor that looked like it was made from real dragon bones. His eyes were full of anger. "You are the human who touched my sister," he said. "It was not a question." Tiho stood up slowly. "It was an accident. I fell. I did not mean to." "I do not care what you meant to do." The young man stepped closer. "I am Prince Di-sung. Princess Yura is my sister. For months I have watched her die slowly, and no medicine could help her. No magic could save her. And then a dirty human mechanic bumps into her in a hallway, and suddenly she improves." "I do not understand it either," Tiho said honestly. "That is not good enough." Di-sung grabbed the front of Tiho's work uniform. "You did something. You used some kind of trick, some kind of poison that looks like a cure. When my sister dies because of you, I will kill you myself." The door opened again. A woman walked in, and Di-sung immediately let go of Tiho and stepped back. She was human, with short black hair and glasses. She wore a white coat with scientific symbols on it. "Prince Di-sung," she said calmly, "the queen asked me to examine the mechanic. You are welcome to stay, but please do not damage him before I finish my tests. Di-sung made an angry sound but moved to the corner of the room. The woman turned to Ti-ho and gave him a small smile. I am Dr. Park Yunbai. I am a xenobiologist. That means I study how different species work. May I take some samples from you? Ti-ho nodded. He did not really have a choice, but he preferred needles to weapons. For the next hour, Dr. Yunbai took blood, skin cells, hair samples, and measured things Ti-ho did not understand. She was professional and kind, explaining each step before she did it. Di-sung watched with cold eyes the entire time. When she finished, she looked at her portable computer and frowned. Then her eyes went wide. "This is impossible," she whispered. "What?" Di-sung demanded. "What did you find?" Dr. Yunbai looked up at them both. Human skin cells produce a unique bioelectric frequency. It is very weak. Humans do not even notice it, but when I compare it to Dracori biology, she typed something quickly. It is like medicine, like pure healing energy. Physical touch from a human could actually repair damaged Dracori cells. The room was silent for a long moment. "You are saying," Di-sung said slowly, "that humans can heal Dracori just by touching them?" "Not exactly. The effect is small in normal circumstances, but the fatting is a disease that attacks the life energy of Dracori, and human touch seems to replace what the disease takes away. It is not a permanent cure, but it is slowing the progress of the illness significantly." Di-sung stared at Ti-ho like he was looking at an alien creature, which Ti-ho supposed he was. "Why did no one know this before?" the prince asked. "Because no one thought to check. Humans and Dracori do not often touch each other. Your species considers physical contact with other races to be beneath you. No offense." Di-sung did not respond to that. He turned and left the room without another word. 2 more hours passed. Then the door opened once more, and this time Queen Nari herself entered. She looked tired. The anger from before was gone, replaced by something that looked like exhaustion and desperate hope. "Leave us," she said to the guards. When they hesitated, she raised her voice. "Now." The guards left. Dr. Yunbai stayed, standing quietly in the corner. Ti-ho remained where he was, unsure if he should bow or kneel or do nothing at all. The queen looked at him for a long time. "Dr. Yunbai tells me that your touch can help my daughter." "That is what she says. I still do not understand it." "Neither do I." The queen sat down on the bench across from him. It was a strange sight, a powerful queen sitting in a prison cell. "My daughter is dying from a disease that has no cure. For 10,000 years the fatting has killed everyone it touched. And now you appear, a simple mechanic, and you offer her something no one else could give. Hope." "I did not offer anything, I just fell." "Perhaps that is why it worked." The queen almost smiled. "The universe has a strange sense of humor." She was quiet again, and Ti-ho could see the war happening inside her. Pride against need, ancient beliefs against new reality. "I am going to ask you something," she finally said. "I am not commanding you. I am asking, will you stay with my daughter? Will you touch her, heal her, help her survive?" Ti-ho blinked. "You are asking me. You could just force me." "I could, but Elder Ha-jun, our oldest advisor, found something interesting in the ancient texts. A prophecy about beings called the Warm Ones. It says their healing only works if it is given freely. If I force you, it might not work at all." She stood up and walked to the door. Then she stopped and looked back at him. "I have spent my whole life believing that Dracori are the greatest species in the galaxy, that humans are workers and servants, nothing more. It is difficult to accept that my daughter's life depends on someone I considered inferior." She paused. "But I love my daughter more than I love my pride, so I am asking, please." The word hung in the air between them. Please. A queen saying please to a mechanic. Ti-ho thought about his simple life, his quiet shifts in the maintenance bay, his instant noodles and his small room. He could ask them to let him go back to that. He could walk away from this whole strange situation. But then he remembered the princess's eyes when she woke up, golden and confused and full of pain. He remembered how fragile she looked under that dark hood, how young. He could not walk away from someone who was suffering. He never could. It was why he became a mechanic in the first place. He hated seeing things broken. "I will help," he said. "I do not want money or rewards, but I need you to promise me one thing." "Name it." "Treat me like a person, not like a tool or a servant. I will stay, but I will stay as a man, not as a machine." Queen Nari studied him for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You have my word, Kang Tiho. You will be treated with respect." She opened the door and spoke to the guards outside. Tiho took a deep breath and stepped out of the cell. His life as a mechanic was truly over now. He did not know what he was becoming instead. But somewhere on this station, a dying princess was waiting, and he had promised to help her. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. The Dracori homeworld was nothing like Tiho had imagined. Mountains floated in the sky, held up by forces he could not understand. Forests of crystal trees sparkled in the light of two suns. Everything was tall, grand, and built for creatures with wings. Tiho felt very small as he walked through the palace halls. The ceilings were so high he could barely see them. The stairs were too big for human legs. Everything reminded him that he did not belong here. But he had made a promise, and he intended to keep it. Princess Yura was waiting in her chambers when they brought him. She sat by a large window, looking out at the floating mountains. Her silver scales caught the sunlight, but Tiho could see the gray patches where the fatting still held on. She was better than before, but she was not healed. "You came," she said without turning around. "I thought you might run away." "I considered it," Tiho admitted. "Your brother is very frightening." She made a sound that might have been a laugh. Sung is protective. He means well even when he acts like a monster. She finally turned to look at him. "So you are supposed to save me, a human mechanic from a backwater planet. The universe truly enjoys making jokes." "I am not trying to save you. I am just trying to help." "Is there a difference?" Tiho thought about it. "Saving sounds like something a hero does. I am not a hero. I just fix things. When something is broken, I try to make it work again. That is all I know how to do." Yura studied him with her golden eyes. "You are strange for a human. Most of your kind are nervous around us. They bow and scrape and say whatever they think we want to hear, but you just speak. Would you prefer if I bowed and scraped?" "No," she almost smiled. "I think I have had enough of that to last several lifetimes." They began the healing sessions that day. It was awkward at first. Tiho would sit beside Yura and hold her hand while doctors monitored her condition. Neither of them knew what to say. The silence stretched between them like a wall. But Tiho was patient. He had spent years working alone in quiet maintenance bays. He knew how to wait. On the third day, Yura finally spoke. "Tell me about your planet, Earth. I have never been there." "It is nothing special compared to this place," Tiho said. "No floating mountains, no crystal forests, just ordinary dirt and ordinary water and ordinary trees." "That sounds peaceful." "It can be. My grandmother had a small garden in the countryside. She grew vegetables and flowers. I used to help her when I was young." He smiled at the memory. "She always said that the best things in life are simple: good food, clean air, someone to share it with." "She sounds wise." "She was. She passed away a few years ago." "I am sorry." "It is okay. She lived a good life." Tiho looked at Yura. "What about you? What do you enjoy, besides being a princess, I mean?" Yura seemed surprised by the question. "No one has asked me that in a very long time." She was quiet for a moment. "I used to paint, before the fatting. I would fly to the highest peaks and paint what I saw, the clouds below, the stars above, the way the light changed at sunset." "Why did you stop?" Because I got sick, because I became weak, because everyone started looking at me like I was already dead. Her voice grew bitter. They hold ceremonies in my honor. They speak of my legacy. They have already started mourning me and I am still breathing. Tiho squeezed her hand gently. Then prove them wrong. Get better. Paint again. She looked at him with an expression he could not read. You make it sound simple. Fixing things is simple. The hard part is deciding to try. As the days passed, something changed between them. The wall of silence began to crumble. Yura asked about Earth, about human food, about the strange music humans listened to. Tiho asked about Dracori history, about flying, about what fire tasted like. Fire does not have a taste, Yura said, laughing. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. That is a ridiculous question. How would I know? I cannot breathe fire. You cannot. What do humans do to keep warm? We wear thick clothes, or we stand close to each other. That sounds terribly inefficient. Maybe, but it gives us an excuse to be near the people we care about. Dr. Yunbai visited weekly to check their progress. Each time she brought good news. The fatting was retreating faster than before. Yura's energy was returning. Her scales were brighter. Her eyes were clearer. The emotional connection is making a difference, Dr. Yunbai explained quietly to Tiho. The more you two genuinely interact, the stronger the healing effect becomes. Keep doing what you are doing. But not everyone was happy about the princess's recovery. Tiho noticed the looks from certain members of the court. Cold stares when they thought no one was watching. Whispered conversations that stopped when he walked by. He tried to ignore it, but the feeling of danger grew stronger each day. One night, he was walking back to his quarters when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned and saw 3 Dracori in dark clothes, their faces hidden by masks. The human should not be here, one of them said. The princess should die as fate intended. They moved fast, faster than Tiho could react. He felt a sharp pain in his side and fell to his knees. One of them raised a blade above his head. And then fire filled the corridor. The attackers screamed and fell back. Tiho looked up and saw Yura standing at the end of the hallway, her hands raised, flames dancing around her fingers. She looked like a goddess of war, terrible and beautiful. Run, she commanded the attackers. Run, and pray I do not find out who sent you. They ran. Yura rushed to Tiho's side and caught him before he collapsed completely. Her hands were warm on his face, warmer than any human hands could ever be. You are hurt, she said, her voice shaking. Why did they hurt you? I think some people do not want you to get better. Yura held him close, her wings wrapping around them both like a shield. Stay with me. Do not close your eyes. Help is coming. But the effort of using her power had cost her. Tiho watched in horror as the gray color began spreading across her scales again. The fatting was returning, faster and angrier than before. No, he whispered. No, you cannot get sick again because of me. It does not matter, Yura said, her voice growing weak. You are safe, that is what matters. She collapsed in his arms, and the darkness took them both. Tiho woke up in a bed that was too large for him. His side hurt where the blade had cut him, but the wound had been treated and wrapped. He was alive. He sat up quickly and immediately felt dizzy. A hand pressed him gently back down. Do not move too fast, Dr. Yunbai said. You lost blood, you need rest. Where is Yura, the princess? Is she okay? Dr. Yunbai's face told him the answer before she spoke. She is alive, but the fatting has returned with great strength. Using her fire powers while weakened was dangerous. She pushed herself too hard to save you. Tiho closed his eyes. This was his fault. If he had been more careful, if he had seen the attack coming, Yura would not have needed to protect him. Take me to her. You need to rest. I will rest when she is better. Take me to her, please. Dr. Yunbai hesitated, then nodded. She helped him stand and led him through the palace halls. Guards watched them pass, their faces hard and suspicious. The attack had put everyone on edge. Yura's chamber was dark when they entered. The princess lay on her bed, surrounded by machines that hummed and beeped. Her skin had turned almost completely gray. The dark veins covered her face and neck and arms. She looked like a statue made of ash. Queen Nari sat beside her daughter, holding her hand. She looked up when Tiho entered. For once, there was no coldness in her eyes, only fear. "She has not woken up since last night," the queen said. "The doctors say she has hours left, maybe less." Tiho walked to the other side of the bed and sat down. He took Yura's other hand in his own. It was cold, so cold. Dracori were supposed to be warm. "Can I be alone with her?" he asked. Queen Nari started to refuse. Then she looked at her daughter, at the gray death spreading across her skin, and she stood up slowly. "I will be outside," she said. "If anything changes, I will call you." The queen left. Dr. Yunbai followed. The door closed and Tiho was alone with the dying princess. He did not know what to do. He did not know any magic words or secret techniques. He was just a mechanic. He fixed broken machines, not broken people. But he held her hand anyway, and he started talking. "I know you probably cannot hear me," he said, "but I am going to talk anyway, because that is what we do, right? We talk about earth and fire and painting and all the stupid things that do not matter." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. Her scales felt rough under his fingers, like old paper. "The truth is, you scared me tonight. When you stepped into that hallway with fire in your hands, I thought I was looking at a legend, something from a story, not a real person." He laughed softly. "But then you fell down and I remembered that you are real, that you can be hurt, that you can die." He was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "I do not want you to die, Yura. I know we have only known each other for a few weeks. I know I am just a mechanic and you are a princess. But when I am with you, I feel like I am more than that. Like maybe I am someone worth being." He leaned closer, still holding her hand. "The doctors say the healing works better when there is a real connection, so I am going to tell you something true, something I have not told anyone since my grandmother died." He took a deep breath. "I was lonely, for years. I worked and I ate and I slept, but I was not really living. I was just going through the motions, waiting for something, but I did not know what." Tears rolled down his face, but he did not wipe them away. "And then I bumped into you in that hallway, and everything changed. You are rude and proud and you make fun of my questions about fire, but you also listen. You ask me things no one else bothers to ask. You make me feel like I matter." He brought her hand to his forehead and closed his eyes. "So please do not leave. Please choose to stay. I know you are tired. I know you have been fighting for a long time, but you do not have to fight alone anymore. I am here. I am not going anywhere." Time passed. Tiho did not know how much. He sat there in the darkness, holding her hand, talking until his voice grew rough and thin. He told her about his grandmother's garden, about the smell of rain on hot pavement, about the first time he fixed something broken and felt proud. He talked about loneliness and hope and fear. He talked about all the things he had kept locked inside for years. And slowly, so slowly he almost did not notice, the room began to change. The gray on Yura's hand started to fade. Color returned, silver and bright, spreading up her arm like sunrise chasing away the night. The dark veins retreated from her face. Her breathing grew stronger. Tiho watched with wide eyes as the fatting was pushed back, inch by inch, moment by moment. It was working. The connection was working. When Queen Nari rushed back into the room an hour later, she found something impossible. Her daughter was sitting up in bed, weak but awake. The gray was gone. The princess was alive. "How?" the queen whispered. Tiho looked at her with exhausted eyes. "I do not know, I just talked to her. I told her the truth." Elder Hajun, the ancient advisor, stepped forward. He had been reading the old prophecies all night, trying to understand. "The texts speak of this," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "The warm ones do not just heal with their touch, they heal with their hearts, with their honesty, with their willingness to be vulnerable." He looked at Tiho with new respect. Humans are not lesser beings. They are the only species that retain the original gift, the power to heal through genuine connection. Prince Sung pushed into the room. He saw his sister sitting up, alive and smiling, and he fell to his knees. Tears streamed down his face as he grabbed her hand. "I thought I lost you," he said. "I thought you were gone." "Not yet, brother." Yura looked at Tiho across the room. "Thanks to him, thanks to the mechanic who refused to let go." Queen Nari turned to Tiho. Her pride was still there, but it had made room for something else. Gratitude, respect. "I was wrong about humans," she said. "I was wrong about you. Can you forgive me?" Tiho managed a tired smile. "There is nothing to forgive. You were scared for your daughter, I understand." He stood up, but his legs gave out. The blood loss, the exhaustion, the emotional weight of the night, it all came crashing down at once. He would have fallen, but strong arms caught him. He looked up and saw Yura. She had left her bed to catch him, her golden eyes bright with tears. "Idiot," she said softly. "You stayed all night, you gave everything you had. Why?" Tiho smiled up at her. "Because you matter, because everyone deserves someone who stays." Yura held him close, and for the first time in months she felt warm, truly warm. Around them, the royal family watched in amazement. A human mechanic had done what 10,000 years of Dracori medicine could not. He had saved their princess, not with magic or technology, but with the simple power of caring. And nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. 1 year passed. The galaxy changed in ways no one could have predicted. News of the human mechanic who healed the Dracori princess spread like fire through dry grass. At first, people did not believe it. Humans were workers and servants, not healers. But the evidence was impossible to deny. Scientists from dozens of planets came to study the phenomenon. They found that Dr. Yunbai was right. Human touch carried a unique energy that could help many species heal faster and feel better. It was not magic. It was biology. Something about Earth, about the harsh conditions humans evolved in, had given them this gift. Suddenly, humans were not so unimportant anymore. Tiho did not care about any of that. He cared about Yura. The healing sessions continued, but they no longer felt like medical treatments. They felt like spending time with a friend. They walked through the crystal forests together. They watched the sunset from the floating mountains. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. The fatting was completely gone now. Yura was healthy and strong, stronger than she had been before the illness. Her scales glowed like polished silver. Her fire burned bright and hot. She was alive, truly alive, for the first time in years. But she was also busy. As the only heir to House HealHFY, she had responsibilities, meetings with other noble houses, diplomatic visits to distant planets, speeches and ceremonies, and endless paperwork. And she had a new mission, one that surprised everyone, including herself. "I am going to change how we treat humans," she announced at a council meeting. "They are not servants, they are not workers, they are partners, equals, and I will make sure the entire empire knows it." Some of the council members protested. Change was hard for a species that measured time in millennia, but Queen Nari supported her daughter and Prince Sung stood beside her. The opposition was silenced. Laws changed. Humans were given better housing, better pay, better treatment. Schools were built to teach Dracori and humans together. The barriers that had separated the species for generations began to crumble. Yura led the charge, fierce and unstoppable. She gave speeches that made people weep. She argued with stubborn nobles until they surrendered. She worked until she collapsed from exhaustion, then woke up and worked more. and through it all, Tiho stayed by her side. He did not want to be a prince or a politician. He did not want power or fame. When Queen Nari offered him anything he desired, he asked for only one thing. A workshop, he said. A small place where I can fix things. That is all I need. The queen laughed, but it was a warm laugh, not a mocking one. You saved my daughter's life, you changed the galaxy, and you ask for a workshop. It is what I am good at, fixing things. So they built him a workshop on the palace grounds. It was small and simple, nothing like the grand halls around it. Tiho filled it with tools and spare parts and half-finished projects. He spent his free time there, repairing broken machines and teaching young Dracori how to use their hands for more than fighting. He was happy, truly happy, but something was missing. Everyone could see it. The way he looked at Yura when she walked by. The way his voice changed when he talked about her. The way he found excuses to be wherever she was. And everyone could see how she looked at him too. The fierce princess who could breathe fire and command armies, she softened when the mechanic was near. She smiled more. She laughed more. She looked at him like he was the answer to a question she had been asking her whole life. But neither of them said anything. They were too stubborn, too scared. It was Prince Disung who finally spoke up. "You are both idiots," he told Tiho one afternoon. "Everyone in the palace knows you love her. Everyone except you, apparently. I'm a mechanic, she is a princess. You saved her life. You changed our entire civilization. I think we can forgive you for not being royalty." Tiho shook his head. "It is not about forgiveness. It is about what is right for her. She deserves someone powerful, someone important, not a man who spends his time fixing broken fountains." Disung stared at him for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He put his hand on Tiho's shoulder. "A year ago I wanted to kill you. I thought you were a threat to my family. I was wrong." His voice was softer than Tiho had ever heard it. "You are part of this family now, whether you accept it or not, and my sister loves you. Do not waste that. Do not let pride destroy something beautiful." He left without another word. Tiho stood alone in his workshop, Disung's words echoing in his mind. That night the twin moons of the Dracori homeworld rose full and bright. Tiho was in the royal garden, working on an old fountain that had stopped flowing centuries ago. It was a challenge, a puzzle, something to keep his hands busy while his heart was confused. He heard footsteps behind him and turned. Yura stood there in simple clothes without her crown or her armor. She looked young. She looked uncertain. "I thought I might find you here," she said. "The fountain is almost fixed. Another hour or two." "The fountain can wait." She walked closer. "I want to talk about something else." Tiho's heart beat faster. "What is it?" Yura sat down on the stone edge of the fountain. After a moment, Tiho sat beside her. The twin moons cast silver light across the garden, making her scales shimmer like stars. "I have been thinking," she said slowly, "about what you did for me, not just the healing, everything. You stayed when you could have left. You talked to me when everyone else was already mourning. You held my hand in the darkness and refused to let go. Anyone would have done the same." "No, they would not." She looked at him directly. "I have met many people in my life, nobles and warriors and diplomats. None of them would have done what you did. None of them would have stayed." Tiho did not know what to say. He looked down at his hands, rough and scarred from years of work. "When you held me that night," Yura continued, "when you talked to me while I was dying, I could hear you, every word. I heard you say that I made you feel like someone worth being." Her voice trembled slightly. "You make me feel the same way, not like a princess or an heir or a symbol, like a person, like Yura." She reached over and took his hand. Her touch was warm, so warm, filled with the fire that lived inside her. "I do not care about politics or traditions or what people expect. I care about you, Kang Tiho. I love you, and I am tired of pretending I do not." Tiho looked at her. at the princess who had become his friend, at the woman who made him believe he was more than just a mechanic. "I love you too," he said. The words came out easier than he expected. "I have loved you since that night, maybe since before that." Yura smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "You know this will cause problems," she said. "A princess and a human mechanic, the nobles will talk." "Let them talk. I have survived worse than gossip." She laughed and leaned closer. "I knew there was a reason I liked you." They sat together in the silver moonlight, hands intertwined, watching the old fountain begin to flow again. Water sparkled in the air, catching the light of two moons. "You never did let go," Yura said softly. "Not once. In all those dark nights you held on." Tiho squeezed her hand. "Told you, I was not planning to start." She rested her head on his shoulder, and they stayed there until dawn painted the floating mountains gold. A mechanic and a princess, a human and a dragon. In the distance, the palace woke up to begin another day. There would be work to do, battles to fight, worlds to change. But for now, in this quiet garden, two people had found something rare and precious. They had found each other. And in a galaxy full of wonders, that was the most miraculous thing of all.